DU. They're injecting them with viruses that are actually nanotech that reprogram the brain. And then they've got movies out, the Born Legacy, showing what's real. And then I've got all the government documents that are public. Who knows what is classified? And it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And then I know I sound like a crazy person on air to someone who's uninformed. It's a nightmare. And then I'm all set and ready to go. And then I start joking around about the Facebook thing. And then I lose my thoughts and I just get angry. And I'll tell you, it's because I'm like a raccoon that's been put in a cage and thrown into a cow pond to be killed. And the raccoon is up there clawing and scraping and trying to get out. And you can see it under about 6 inches of water, trying to poke its nose out, trying to get to the surface, and you finally see it give up after a while. And I just am so tired of watching people in a zombie state getting poisoned and killed, and little kids that are getting sick and dying of cancer, and all the diabetes and all the diseases and all the curses and all the deformities and all the stuff that's happening. And the globalists are bragging how they did it, and I see them arming against us. And it's just, if people knew what I knew and did the research and found out I wasn't making this up, there's no way any of you would put up with this, even if you were cowards. Because a coward would go, wow, we're doomed if we don't resist this. And then I feel guilty just constantly because I'm still a little bit worldly and do still enjoy status and money and things like that. And really, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of money and status because it gives you a little bit of protection. But, you know, you rationalize, but you still feel bad, like you're not doing enough. That's why people call up and say, oh, you're doing such a great job. It's like getting punched in the nose, man. Because the callers are so sweet and so good. And it just reminds me of the general public being abused by the New World Order. Every time I look at my youngest daughter, who's so innocent and so full of good, and so I think about what the globalists are doing to little children, and with the GMO and the vaccines and the fluoride and how they know it. And I think about city councils I've seen on video all over the country laughing at medical doctors that come in and warn them. Those idiot city council people are going to have their wives and husbands and kids die young. But they're so unhuman and dumbed down and like biological android jellyfish. They kind of get into the pageant of their wife or husband or kids dying and the media attention and the balloons and the parties and the race for the cure and everything. And they don't even care. They kind of like being killed. They kind of like their family dying. They're like demonic jellyfish. Is the best way to describe it. They're people who want to be judged and want to be destroyed and want the globalists to fly over with drones and release an engineered human mouse pox so that 98% of them can flop around dying. And then when they do that, if they go to that level, which I know is part of their plan, the survivors will still worship the killers. Even though it's like, yeah, the drone flew over and did it, it won't matter. I mean, it's unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with your calls and some other very important news from Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. If you just joined us towards the end of the last hour, I went over the numbers of all-time record suicides for the U.S. military across the board. And it's not just soldiers that are in combat. It's across the spectrum. It's contractors, you name it. And it's because when they ask any questions or go get medical checkups, they're pushing all sorts of experimental drugs, mind control drugs, that's in the news, on them, but also serotonin reuptake inhibitors that were developed actually in CIA mind control programs. You can look that up, and cause massive psychotic breaks, massive increase in suicide, mass killings. That's on the drug inserts. Eli Lilly covered up that fact in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s when they were getting it approved in 1981. The massive, 15-fold increase in suicide and psychotic activity. It's not a good idea to give people that are combat veterans of 3, 4, 5, 6 tours a drug like that, because they're going to start wanting to kill their family when their wife's getting in their face. So they just, instead of killing their family, they go kill themselves. That's what I've looked at some of the crime files that are online, quite a few, and in most cases they were under psychiatric care on drugs. And you give somebody an hallucinogen that's a trained killer, it's bad news they're killing themselves. The good news is they're not killing their families or those around them. And so that's what's going on. And let me just explain something here. Earlier I read an article about how the average person does not care about the war and is sick of hearing about the war. That's out of the Associated Press. Americans tune out of Afghan war as fighting rages on. Let's get something straight. These people that run over when they see somebody in a uniform and say, oh, thank you so much for your service and all this, that's something they do that they think the troops want to hear. And some of them do it for good reasons. A lot of them do it just because it makes them feel politically correct and good. Like the women winning the volleyball thing, always thanking the troops. Now, I'd be shocked if she said, and let's get, the troops their pensions that were stolen by Prudential. They don't have a new hero. Because if you're actually going to care about somebody, you better actually know what help they need. That's why when I'm in an airport or on the street and people come over to guys in uniform, maybe if they're new recruits, privates, they like it, but you can see if it's a sergeant or somebody that, that's been in a long time, and the people come over, they're like, oh, thank you. You could tell it's like a punch in the stomach. They don't want to hear how great they are. They've been over there growing opium. They've been over there cleaning up little kids' guts. They've been over there watching people get fragged who speak out against al-Qaeda being run by the West. They know Pat Tillman was murdered by the government. They don't want you telling them how great they are, okay? Let me just give you a little news flash, okay? Let me just give you a little news flash. When they go to the local football game and they're in plain clothes and the principal comes out and talks about them, everybody points at them, using them for a propaganda point, because the principal and the coach likes to play like they're Army PSYOP officers and promote the war effort like America is really in a war. America's in a war with globalists that took it over, not against a bunch of jihadis the globalists run. Let me tell you, the troops don't like that, okay? They don't like it. I know them. But let me just get something straight to everybody. The New World Order hates the military, and they hate conservatives and libertarians and constitutionalists, and all their manuals show that we broke, that the media admits are real. And the military's depressed training for urban warfare. They're depressed training to put political dissidents in jail. They're depressed training for re-education camps, declassified in America. You'd think that'd be big news. 3 months later, they hadn't been in any mainstream news. You think that the media would be forced to cover something like that. So let's get something straight. Our government, for at least 70 years, has tested on our troops and killed them in countless declassified studies. Radiation, biologicals, chems, everything. Again, my dad told the story. He was asking a professor at UT in biology, well, why don't they use pigs and monkeys for these nuclear tests? Why do they use soldiers? And the professor looked at him and said, because soldiers are cheaper than pigs and monkeys. The globalists are bound in one thing. They look at all of us as dumb, pathetic animals, as cattle, as scum, as meat on the table to be eaten. They are a culture across the board. The Chinese elite, the European elite, the North American elite, African elite, Latin American elite, Jewish elite, Japanese elite. They're all the same. They compete with each other over who's the most ruthless. That's what Machiavelli is all about. And when you sit here like a naive child, or people almost think it's a form of hospitality to be chumps. That it's a form of hospitality to be run over, to be abused, to be used. They think it's cute. They think it's cool. They think it's fun because they're delusional. people think that if they imagine something, it's not like what is, but what is public opinion. It's not like what is the right thing to do. It's like what are other people doing? And once you get into that pack mode of like lemmings going off the edge of a cliff, and we're a higher order of life, folks, than lemmings and sheep. I've watched it myself. I'll be going to an airport and opt out of the scanner, and 20 people behind me will opt out. But if I sit there and watch and nobody's opting out, nobody opts out. I mean, that's scary, folks, that you can opt out, then everybody behind you is going to opt out. By the way, they'd have to stop the whole line if everybody opted out. That's why when we were going to have National Opt-Out Day, they shut it down for a week and searched nobody, because they didn't want you to see the power you had. Do we have that clip ready? Here's a clip. Is it Bugs Life or Ants? I forget the name. Ants. I mean, they know what they're doing. So let's get this straight. The people running things are eugenicists, which is a scientific amalgamation of basically a psychopathic religion. This is really a religion, that they're the elite God class who will ascend and get all the high tech, and we're animals who are too dumb and we're going to be killed. That is the heart of the New World Order. That is what the New World Order stands for. That's what the New World Order is. And people are like, oh, just be positive about it. It'll be okay. No, the whole thing is sinister. The whole thing is abusive. The whole thing is evil. Evil, evil, evil people, wicked beyond imagination, are in control. And there's still a lot of good people. We still have our basic morals that torture is wrong, secret arrest is wrong, warrantless wiretapping is wrong. But you notice the system just keeps promoting it like it's good and putting heroes on TV that do it, so that their own minions will then carry it out. It doesn't matter if they commit suicide down the road, because you give them drugs that make them commit suicide. They know what they're doing. They're fully aware of what they're doing. And now they're coming out with nasal sprays with these hardcore chemicals that basically mind wipe the troops. They're giving them amnesics. They're giving them amphetamines. They're giving them everything. And of course, it's only going to make the suicide worse. But now they're trying to absolutely end free will, and they just roll out and say, you don't expect if they're going to inject you with a virus or even spray it on you. They want people to opt in first to be able to study them. See, they're setting the precedent where they can give us drugs and things that openly kill us, and then nobody gets in trouble. Oh, we gave millions of hemophiliacs a drug that we knew had HIV and hepatitis in it. Big deal, nobody gets in trouble. Oh, big deal. And now they come out and go, we got an anti-stress vaccine. You'll never be upset again. Yeah, because you're going to be an emotionalist zombie. But they just report it like it's, oh, look, we got a new shot. You'll never be depressed again. They're already testing this on the troops. I've confirmed it. People are coming home, folks, and they do whatever their wife tells them. They don't have fun at the football game anymore. They're not even human anymore. They just sit there and, Bob, go mow the yard. Yes, ma'am. Bob, stick your hand in the light switch.